last month, I got into a lengthy comment war about morality. This commenter was kind of dodgy, dealing almost entirely in abstraction, so I tried to pin him down with some specifics. He wouldn't bite immediately. Believers hate specifics because once you get down into the weeds, things get really ugly, and they know it. But I finally managed to get him to commit to the following. If God is God and the source of life, and the one who made you an eternal soul, and created you in his image, not physical image, and gave himself as a ransom for the debt you could not pay, offending an infinitely good and just God ensures an infinite penalty, then how is it that his standards are purely arbitrary? Well, that was one shitload of ifs, wasn't it? If God is God, if God is the source of life, if God is X, Y, and Z. None of those ifs can be objectively demonstrated or known. That makes the commenter's belief in such a God and all of those ifs as subjective as any of my admittedly somewhat subjective choices regarding my morality. But it's worse than that, because even if that God exists, we have no objective way to know of that being's will or anything about that being's character. People thousands of years ago supposedly received communication from our commenter's God. And those people supposedly said that the God of our commenter, the God he's chosen subjectively to believe in, thinks that X, Y, and Z is good or evil. But the choice to believe what those people said about God's existence and will is purely arbitrary and subjective, and likely based on the fact that he grew up believing such things based on geography, which is about as arbitrary as it gets. So the morality any believer chooses to embrace has no more grounding in an objective and demonstrable reality than anyone else's, believer or not. They can say they believe in an objective morality, but they have no objective way to get there. You can't subjectively choose the God and morality you believe in and then claim it to be objective. The Taliban, ISIL, and Al-Qaeda are certain they have an objective morality too, for exactly the same reasons and using the exact same reasoning. And they're actually doing what God commands, killing non-virgin girls and pushing homosexuals out of tall buildings. As I've said before, a fundamentalist is simply a believer who knows how to follow directions. Our commenter believes in and embraces a world of magic, but then somehow thinks he has some kind of objective grounding for his morality, all based on his arbitrary and subjective choice to believe in one particular magical being over all the others. What he doesn't want to see is that we're all in the same boat. We all have subjective reasons for our beliefs regarding morality based on subjective choices to believe this or that about right and wrong. The only difference is that our commenter arbitrarily and subjectively believes in a God who then hands him his morality. The subjectivity is simply one floor down, but it's still the foundation. Ultimately, his claim to have some objective basis for his morality is nothing more than an effort to leapfrog everyone else in order to establish his supremacy. And it's all based on a litany of ifs, of which he objectively knows nothing. I'll have part 2 of our exchange next week. You'll definitely want to see that. Until then, I'm still really just me. Thanks for watching. Nothing's as important as enlightening, humorous content. And with once-weekly Patreon-supported Wellbritron XL, you'll get that and so much more. And I think it's nice that there's a low risk of sexual side effects.
Wellbritron XL effectively delivers enlightening, humorous content with a low risk of sexual side effects.
You'll feel great laughing again, all while life-enriching insights come at you left and right. Well, maybe just from the left.
Wellbritron XL is not for everyone. There's a risk of seizure-like laughter when taking Wellbritron. This risk can increase if you've recently left your religion or consumed large amounts of marijuana. Don't use if you've recently stopped thinking clearly or are offended by religious or political satire. Be careful when mixing Wellbritron with libertarianism, magical thinking, or regular doses of PragerU, which can increase blood pressure, sometimes severely. To reduce the risk of serious side effects, tell your cognitive advisor of any deficiencies in cognitive function or sense of humor. If religious, contact a secular advisor if you begin to have thoughts of apostasy, dancing, or sexual liberation. Don't stop taking Wellbutrin abruptly, as that may lead to extreme mood swings and frequent urination.
Once weekly, Patreon-supported Wellbutrin, humorous, enlightening content with a low risk of sexual side effects.
Go to patreon.com/Mr. Deity to find out about once weekly Wellbutrin XL. You'll laugh, you'll think, you'll feel better.
And so will I.